another match that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the reaction after Leeds United beat Chelsea 3-0. They had to go down south to Brighton, and that was basically the match that we all expected it to be when we were talking about that. However, I was more on the end of Leeds will find a goal, and it was Brighton who found the goal. But a 1-0 win by Brighton over Leeds United. Tom, talk us through that. Was that what you expected? That sort of a
Right,
much,
listen,
just vastly different match than the Chelsea match.
listen. This clearly was not our finest day at the office, and in the greatest of respect to the lads, they need to do better. They need to do better. Well, when this is going out, we need to do better tonight against Frank Lampard because the result against Chelsea, in my opinion, was so monumental, so decisive, such a smashing of Chelsea that I couldn't help just sit there and go like, all right, we lost, but you were so awesome last week. I'm not going to be reactionary to be like, we're the greatest team on earth on Sunday, and 6 days later, we're the worst because we lost it by 1 goal to Brighton. I mean, there was a team that lost by 9 times the amount that we did at the same time. So,
Yeah.
what am I meant
Well,
to?
and Brighton's a good squad right now, especially.
They're going to be at worst, they're going to be the top end of mid-table, lower mid,
Yeah.
top end of mid-table. I don't know the best way to describe that, but they're not going to be worrying come April, May. They are a well-oiled side, and they just happen to tactically match up against us in a way that is not advantageous for Leeds United, let's just say. And that's probably been the
Yeah.
case for a long time. I could have this wrong, but I believe we've not actually scored a goal at the Amex Stadium for about 10 hours.
Yeah, like something like the last 8 games or something crazy like that, or the 8 appearances at
that spans about 3 tiers of football.
Yeah.
Well, something that Brighton was able to do against you guys that didn't happen at Chelsea, and we were concerned with this. I remember talking about it on Friday is they made you guys lose your game plan, and not Jesse Marsh, but the individual players. They didn't allow the toes to get to the ball, to this, to that, where the players started doing their own things, trying to create stuff. Meanwhile, those one-touch passes couldn't happen because everybody was on their own page. And I think Jesse Marsh even mentioned something about that of like, we all lost the game plan or something like that.
He called it freestyling, I believe. I personally would have said it felt a bit like they went into business for themselves a bit. But to be fair to them, at least they didn't, what's the right way to put it? They didn't decide, oh, this ain't going our way. I'm going to throw my toys out the buggy and I want to go home sort of thing. It was like, no, like, we can still beat these guys.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Yeah, you guys threw together like a very, very nice stretch of football for about 20 minutes. From about the 60th to the 80th minute, I thought you guys were going to at least get 1 goal. The pass to, I think it was that Sinistera put out there, the cross that they just couldn't get it directed properly. I thought that was going in. And for a substitution, I thought he was fantastic. But I if there was ever a hangover from a big win, I think this was it. The passes were the lovely short passes to one another that you had going in Chelsea just weren't accurate. I'm going to call it the curse of fantasy football because I decided that Rodrigo should be on my fantasy team and I could save a few bucks. But he probably played the worst game of this early season. I just, and I don't even think it was so much Leeds as it was Brighton. I mean, Brighton played really, really, really well, especially for a team that has sloughed off so much talent. I just like Gross. I've been hearing things. I haven't seen Brighton play it. He was amazing. Solly Marsh was very solid. Is it Trossard? Trossard was amazing. Trossard was amazing.
Yeah. Well, this is a match where you really missed Bamford, I would say, where you missed a player like Bamford, because Rodrigo can find space in these teams that will attack you guys a bit more. But Brighton is so well managed in the back that it's hard to find that space if you're not an out-and-out striker the way somebody like Bamford is. So were you guys missing him? Do you agree with that?
It's true to an extent. What I actually think Brighton did that really nullified us was they focused on our double pivot, which then they forced us into playing a lot more of a long ball game, which then created what's the best way of putting it? It became more 50-50 and usually in the defender's favour, as opposed to basically whereas Chelsea just thought that they could turn up and they were going to steamroller over us. Brighton had a very specific plan that they need to stop Rocker and Tyler Adams from distributing the ball. And they basically forced us to panic and make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's how the game really sort of got away from us. And that created, when we were in possession, the freestyling that Jesse Marsh alluded to.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't do what he wanted them to do because Brighton knew what he wanted them to do.
Right. Yeah. The game
I could be wrong, but that's how.
Yeah, the game to me was still it was still you could still grasp a point, maybe even all three. For me, and Mr. Tom, or anyone at that matter can chime in on this, but I felt that Marsh's substitutions were wrong. I didn't think that Aronson should have come off for Joffe. I think Rodrigo should have come off. I think they would have kept that. It seemed like they lost a little bit of pace with that substitution. I didn't care for it much.
I think I could be wrong. I think it was more to send a message to Aronson that you did not do well today.
He did not.
To be fair, Brighton did not let him do well.
I think it was the curse of Captain America. He got dubbed Captain America today, and he got cursed.
But I think it was very like, you're my boy, but you still will get pulled off when. Same as Bielsa made a point
when it's not your day. It wasn't his day.
Phillips.
No, it definitely wasn't. And when he got pulled, he knew it. He was just like, God, I played like shit, and I'm getting pulled. Fuck.
What you're saying though, was it?
Well, let's.
But you said I thought you said it was the midfield. Wasn't it that you lost the midfield a little bit more? I know.
To be fair to Brighton, I argue we lost every position because they won, and. Although we had chances, but
something starts that breakdown of your entire system. For Arsenal, it's always been midfield. Once you break that down, we're in trouble a lot. So I was just wondering if that's where, because you sounded like you were saying the midfield definitely struggled.
Well, yeah.
And
so
from the height,
he's
balls
talking
going
about
long.
Yeah.
So when I see balls going long, that's usually because you can't
Tom's talking about their double pivot. Yeah. And so much of Leeds United football. Yeah, Leeds United football comes from Mark Rocca and Tyler Adams, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct? Who are their double pivot back there, and they can open teams up. So it's just essentially like somebody taking Partey and these days Partey and Zinchenko out of it, then we can't break that line. We can't get the ball to our playmakers. So it was very well done. But listen, I have to say that this may just be exactly what Leeds United needed, because you guys are coming off of such a great high from the start of the season, especially after the Chelsea win, that, you know what, you didn't get embarrassed. Brighton isn't a terrible team. And you lost 1-0. And you could have drawn at any point. It just didn't happen.
Yes.
So maybe this is what you needed. And Jesse Marsch needs to go, listen, fuckers, we did great 1 week, but you can't come out and run around like chickens with your heads cut off. We will lose to these teams.
Well, I think it's
So
important
maybe it's for
to
the
say,
best.
well, sorry, two things, quickly. It's important to say we're actually not too far removed from when you're talking about a Leeds defeat. You're talking how many goals was it by? Like, you're like, when we're not actually that far away from conceding 20 goals in a month, or like 10 goals in a week. I mean, we lost a football match 1-0. I mean,
Yeah.
not going to get worried about that. We'll be highly worried if we do not get the result against Everton, which I think we will get. But, or put another way, if someone turned the day before we played Wolves on the opener, if someone had turned around to me and gone, Mr. Tom, will you take 7 points from your first 4 games, considering one of them games is against Chelsea? I would have gone, yes, thank you very much. I'd have been thrilled. So I am thrilled.
Absolutely. Absolutely.